Let's talk a little bit about the fact that the airport itself says this is ongoing, and we're sort of piecing this together. Steve Rogers, former FBI task force member, is on the phone. So, Steve, as the picture comes together for us all at about the same time, it's our understanding that there was some sort of incident that happened either at the taxi area, which is often right outside the baggage claim, where people are picking up their bags and moving out to get picked up to leave the airport. We only know from our affiliate that the shooter has been contained, but what that means exactly, we don't know. We don't know the extent of injuries. What is the priority for law enforcement right now?
Well, right now, they have shut down those terminals. There's no one going to be leaving that terminal at all, or any of those areas at all, until everyone is checked out by the police. I can tell you right now that they're probably concerned about maybe other suspects. They want to make sure that there's not just one shooter contained. If there are other people involved, they're going to look for them. And very, very important right now is the video footage that they are probably looking at now as we're speaking, to see what went on, how it went on, how this thing came down. We're talking about the baggage area. We don't know if something was put on one of those conveyor belts, if something came off the aircraft. So it's so soon to assume anything, but I'll tell you this, the police got that whole place tightened up. No one's going to be coming or going out of those terminals. And
it's unfortunate in this day and age that every time something like this happens, we have to inquire about the prospects of terrorism. We know that terrorists have attacked airports in Turkey, for instance, and you have to wonder whether that's part of the plan here.
Well, you're absolutely right. And look, and not only myself, but many people in the intelligence community have said for many, many months, it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. And whether it be a terrorist connected with an international connection or a homegrown terrorist, terrorism is terrorism. Now, saying that, we're beginning to realize, because we've seen this happen in malls, we've seen this happen in airports, that we're going to have to change our rules of engagement regarding law enforcement. There has to be a tremendous high visibility of uniformed officers in all of these public places. These are soft targets. You know, we hear time and again, well, we don't have the money to put police personnel and dogs here or there. We're going to have to do it. It's either going to be we're going to spend money or we're going to spend lives. But what we're going to have to do is ensure that we're doing the best we could to protect the people. Now, that doesn't mean a lone gunman or some maniac is going to come in and begin to cause havoc. But what it does mean, it'll certainly minimize the possibility of something happening. Yeah. So we're going to have to change the rules of engagement.
I don't want to jump the gun. We don't know what the situation is here. We understand that the shots were fired near the area of the taxi stand. You know, driving a cab can be a stressful occupation, and sometimes one guy has a beef with another and pulls out a gun. You don't know what happened here, but it's obviously frightened those passengers who are now well out onto the tarmac, being sort of held in a pen there at Fort Lauderdale International Airport.
It might be confusing to our viewers, John. I know it was the first time that I heard it, that eyewitness accounts can sometimes be the most misleading, and you have to be very careful. And that seems counterintuitive, because you think an eyewitness would see everything. That's why you call them an eyewitness. As we take a look again at Fort Lauderdale Airport, where the shooting took place. What we are seeing at this time are reports that the number of injured has gone up. So I want to be careful with these numbers. We don't know them yet. I did mention that the initial reports placed it around a handful of people with injuries. Now we're seeing it move up a little bit more, and when we don't have confirmation of the precise number, I hesitate sharing that. But according to the airport, an ongoing situation. So we quite frankly, Steve, don't know whether or not this is over yet. According to one report, I should also mention that, again, we're just going through a few different reports here. Our affiliate says the shooter's contained. Another report says the shooter's in custody. We're going to try to work it out. Rod Wheeler's with us, a former D.C. homicide detective. He joins us by phone. And interesting, Rod, here we're watching on live television. You see a plane land, because if you're in the air, you got to land. But the folks on the plane have no idea what sort of situation they're landing to.
Exactly. And you know what? This is still a very fluid situation. And I was just listening to when you said the police had the suspects contained. Now, some viewers may be saying, well, what does that mean? That means that the threat itself may have been taken out right now. The individual has been surrounded, probably in custody. We don't know that yet. This is still a very fluid situation. So what happens at airports is that when the airport police notify the authorities, the FTA and the authorities there, what's going to happen is all flights coming in and going out of the airport are put on hold at that point. And that way, no one can come in, no one can get out until they get the situation under control.
Well, talk about getting the situation under control. I mean, that's got to be, from an investigator standpoint, sort of the worst possible scenario. You've got thousands and thousands of people, some of whom are arriving, some of whom are trying to leave, and you're trying to figure out who the gunman is, who got shot, who the target was. I mean, from the standpoint of a police investigator, Rod, it's got to be a nightmare scenario.
Well, it is, but I'll tell you one thing, John. We do train, law enforcement train for these situations quite often. And I'll tell you, you make a very good point in terms of air traffic coming in and air traffic going out. Until the situation is really under control, meaning they have the suspect in custody and there's no other threat. See, that's the other thing you have to worry about with these types of situations. You may have a person surrounded. You may have a person in custody, but there still may be other threats there at the airport. It could be in the form of a bomb. It could be a vehicle. We don't know. So what they're going to do right now, they're trying to check out this person that they have contained, make sure that there's no other threats to the passengers or to the people that's living in that area, John.
Again, this is going to have ripple effects on the air transportation situation nationwide. JetBlue is the biggest airline serving the Fort Lauderdale International Airport. About 23% of the flights in and out of there are JetBlue flights. So if you're elsewhere in the country and you think this does not affect you, but you're planning on taking a JetBlue flight today, you might want to check on the departure time, because this is going to slow down that airline significantly and a number of others as well.